Welcome back to the neighborhood. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Andrew.
And today we are going to talk about our impressions of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre video game. I don't know exactly like the full title. Texas Chain Saw Massacre game that just came out. The game itself is an asymmetric 3 versus 4 multiplayer horror game. I guess it's more of a horror game if you're on the survivor side than the killer side. But the team of 4 takes on the role of various survivors from the original movie from the 70s.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah, they are trying to escape the basement and then ultimately the compound of the family that is killing people without being horrifically murdered. There are 4 different ways to escape. So like once you get out of the basement, you have to go around the map looking for various parts and lockpicks and that sort of a thing to then take those 2 specific locations and attempt to get out without being seen. The team of 3 is attempting to keep the survivors from escaping. One player on that team always plays as Leatherface, and they always start in the basement, kind of harassing the survivors that are down there. The other 2 killers start upstairs and are attempting to wake up Grandpa by collecting blood from various areas around the map and feeding it to him.
My favorite part.
Yeah, that was having not watched the movie, that was a very bizarre part of this game to me. Once he wakes up, he periodically makes the survivors visible if they are moving. This happens more frequently the more he is fed, so the killers can continue to collect blood from places on the map or by attacking the survivors, and that gives them blood, which they can then feed to Grandpa to make his power more frequent, more powerful. There are a few different maps, a few different times a day per each map. All of the characters have different abilities that they can use, so there's a little bit of like variability in that. I think the biggest variability probably comes more from like on the killer side of things, because they all have pretty different powers. I think a lot of the survivor powers were either more passive or the only one that I can even remember is like there is a guy who was able to stun like most of the killers. So
yeah, they all had different powers, but it wasn't with going into it blind like we did. It was kind of tough to kind of suss out what each one did and what situations to use them in. But yes, the dude who could just like shoulder check anybody coming towards him, that seemed like a pretty good power to have.
Yeah, so there definitely seem like there are some that are better than others, or at least more useful in more situations than others. There is like a system in the game where you can level up your characters and get like bonus stats and unlock different abilities and that sort of a thing. We did not play it enough to really get into this part of it, but like this video is meant to be more of just a general impressions and like, do we think it's worth checking out, especially if you have Game Pass.
We also played it with a group of friends in like a like kind of local match environment, which I don't think you earn a lot like of XP or anything like that you can actually use to level up, so we really didn't get to check that system out too much.
But if you play the game and you enjoy it, there is like a little bit more depth to the game where you can be, customizing it to your particular play style a little bit more, I think. But that's basically the game in a nutshell. It reminds me a lot of like a Dead by Daylight type of game, where it's, asymmetric. You've got kind of powerful killers versus the survivors who are trying to escape. To me, Dead by Daylight definitely feels more like balanced, personally. I'm sure there are people that play Dead by Daylight, and if they watch, they may comment otherwise. But to me, it's always felt decently balanced, and the 1 versus 4, I think, definitely helps in that regard, because there's always like you can only do so much as one person. With 3 people, it's 3 versus 4. I think it's definitely a lot tougher, even though like they start upstairs. I still think it definitely got pretty challenging on the survivor side of things.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I also think obviously Dead by Daylight is a tough comparison because they've had so much more time to kind of hone what they do. But yeah, I do think just starting out the difference of numbers, 3v4 versus 1v4, definitely had an impact. I would say I had a lot more fun playing on the killer side than I did as a survivor with Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Yeah. So, I think it's a good thing to start on like the good side. So what were some of the things that we enjoyed about it? I thought it was a fun way to spend a night with friends. That was a lot of fun to just get a big group of people together and just be kind of messing around playing this game that was new to all of us. Like, I think that was another nice part about it, was no one had like a distinct advantage going in. We were all just as lost as everyone else.
Yeah.
What parts of it did you, I guess, does anything stick out to you as particularly good? Something that you enjoyed from it beyond just playing with other people?
Yeah, no, that was definitely probably the main thing. The other thing is it seemed very true to its source material. It seemed to kind of take its movie tie-in pretty seriously. So I think if you are a fan of the property, there's a lot to love here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think the most fun to be had would be with like a big group of friends. We touched on the progression and stuff earlier and how we didn't really get to dabble in that too much. What I saw, the things you could unlock, didn't really get me super excited to like grind this game out. So I do think it kind of falls in that like party game category for me, where it's like, if we can get the number of people together, this could be a good time. But I don't see myself going back to it by myself a lot.
Yeah. It definitely does take the source material very seriously, right down to the spelling of the name of the game.
Yes,
they do put that space in between chain and saw, rather than the more traditional spelling of it being just one word. But there was a lot of stuff that was kind of, like, we had fun with it. It was a bit of a headache. We'll talk about a little bit of the bad things now. It was a bit of a headache just getting in to the games. We were doing,
and this is specifically for like how we were doing it with like a party. I imagine just loading into a random game is a lot smoother than this.
I have gone back and just played a couple of matches like loading in solo, and it was not rough. But how we were doing it, trying to get 7 people together, and we were doing some crossplay stuff because we had people on PC and PlayStation and Xbox, and so we couldn't all just like easily hop into things. So we had to, you have to start a party first, and then from that party you have to make a custom game, because it won't let you make a custom game until you have at least 4 people in your party, and then since you're all on different platforms, and you can't send each other like just easy invites, you have a code that you have to read off, which is nice, like, it works, but it was kind of a headache and a hassle to get all of that started. And for some reason, like, when you start a custom game, it automatically starts counting down a timer to like when the match starts or whatever, and that was, it was weird because it was just like a custom game between friends that it was doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Any negatives on your end that you saw?
Well, yeah, touching on that for a second, that hopefully is something that like the developers can address and can improve over time. It's not something that like affects the core gameplay of the game, which is also something on kind of the bad side that I hope that they can address, and we touched on a little bit earlier. And it's just balancing, like, as the survivors. I mean, it definitely instills you with that feeling of, you know, the odds are stacked against you and you got a lot of luck on your side trying to escape. And I do know, just based on some of what I've heard about this game, like there are ways to break the game and tricks to like easily escape and stuff like that. But when we went in blind and we were just playing with friends and we were all just kind of getting accustomed to it together, it definitely felt like the killers had a lot more power and tools in their arsenal to stop the survivors than the survivors had to escape. So I imagine the more familiar you get with the game and the levels, and if you have a cohesive team, like you can kind of work around that. But just as like an initial impression and an initial like gameplay experience, like I said it earlier, but I had way more fun as the killers than I did as the survivors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, way more fun to be on that team that's like got all the power in the situation versus like the survivors where you're literally just hoping not to be seen and running away. And they're, you know, like you said, the first kind of time we did it, we were all going in blind. I think the first 2 matches, no one even got out of the basement because we didn't really know what to do to get out of the basement. Which, you know, like you said, some of it is just learning the maps, learning how the game works. But there were also definitely a few times towards the end of the night where somebody, like 2 or 3 people would have gotten killed on the survivor side, and there was just like kind of one person left, and it really didn't feel feasible for that person to be able to escape either. There's kind of like that sweet spot in between where there's got to be enough people alive to be distracting the enemy team, or you're just going to end up dead anyway. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, if it's easily balanced or if there is a way to balance it. But yeah, it's you know, as a fun, goofy, you know, game to play with friends, it like a party game, like you said earlier, it didn't seem like it was like too unbalanced because everybody was having just a good time, you know, swapping sides and getting an equal chance.
Right.
But yeah, it was a bit tough on if you got the survivors. So but that's kind of our very brief, you know, thoughts on the game. We're gonna end kind of this video with just like a recommendation. This game is on Game Pass. We both played it on Game Pass, and so we're trying out, you know, just kind of hey, if you have Game Pass, do we think you should give this game a shot? So I'll throw it to you first, Andrew. Do you think people should check this game out?
Yes and no. So the yes camp is definitely if you have a big friend group that can all access this game. I definitely think it's worth playing. It's fun. It's a fun way to kill an evening. I think you're gonna have a good time. I think if you also are into this genre, if you do play a lot of Dead by Daylight, or if you've played like the Ghostbusters game or the not Alien, the Predator game, like some of these others that have like come out, and you enjoy this genre, I would definitely recommend checking this one out just to see what it has to offer, the things you like, don't like about it. If you just have Game Pass and you just want to try it, absolutely. I mean, you've got nothing to lose. For me, this was one that after that first night, that first like kind of weekend where we were into it, I uninstalled it. I probably won't go back, but it's not really my kind of genre. So like the only way that I'm really going to play this game is if 6 other people are like, hey man, let's play. And I'll be like, sure, it'll be a fun evening, but it's not one that I'm going to return to just because like I'm super into it. What about you, Dylan?
You know, similar to you, obviously the disclaimer of, you know, if you have Game Pass, you're losing nothing by checking it out. For me, I thought it did some cool things. I do like sort of those asymmetric type of games. I liked, you know, Evolve back in the day. I played Dead by Daylight. You know, just the asymmetric style just is cool to me. This does a lot of cool things, but it's also, you know, very just not rough around the edges. Like, I do think it's generally pretty good, but just getting in, playing it by myself, like, I don't know that it's one that I would really go into and play a lot by myself. It would definitely be something I'd play more with at least like 3 or 4 other people, where we could, either just go in as killers or go in as survivors, or, the big group of 7 of us where we're, all just having fun taking turns. I haven't uninstalled it, but I probably won't really be playing it, and it will get uninstalled. I don't think it was bad, but it just was not my style, and if I'm going to play a game like this, I'm probably just going to play Dead by Daylight. So
fair enough.
Yeah. So this is where we toss it to you, the viewer. Would you recommend checking it out? Let us know why or why not down in the comments. And these are all our opinions, your opinions. So, everybody be civil down there. It's okay to like a game that other people don't like. It's okay to not like a game that other people do like, so just be friendly down there. If you want to hear us talk way more in depth about that, well, not way more in depth, but we did talk more in depth than we did in this video. Yeah. We do have a podcast that you can find, Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Feel free to go check that out.
And here on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll probably be linked somewhere in a corner at this time, if you do want to just check it out. We also want to give a shout out to the guys from the Wait For It podcast. They were the ones who kind of organized us getting a big group of 7 together, invited us to participate in it. And we had a lot of fun, and they're in some of this gameplay that you've been seeing this entire time, but go check them out. They've got a really cool podcast as well. If you've enjoyed this video, leave us a like, consider subscribing for more videos from us in the future. And with that, we will leave you with a reminder to stay friendly, gamers.